friends, today we are going to make some painted paper using some secondary colors. However, we are starting with primary colors and we are going to be using some fluorescent colors. So instead of red, we've got bright pink, but we know that pink is just a lighter version of red, so it's just like we're using red. And we've got fluorescent yellow and fluorescent blue. So if you turn your little egg carton so it's vertical, you are going to see the different ways that you are to mix. We've got yellow and the pink or red, which would make, hopefully you can answer that question. And you've got blue and pink that will mix together to make, and blue and yellow that will mix together to make. Oh, I hope you could answer those questions. So you're gonna see as I'm painting these. So I am going to mix these up, and you need to decide what color you would like to use for your big paper, and then you have two little papers that you are going to be coloring today or painting today too. Now before we can paint, you're going to be getting a big placemat, and I need to see your name and your room number on each of these pieces of paper. I want you to leave them name side up and then put your pencil away. And then once I see this, I know that you are ready to get your paint. So you are going to be getting a paintbrush, a cloth, so we can wipe our brush off. Remember, do not touch the cloth, don't grab the cloth. Just leave it on your table and wipe, 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 wipe the best you can. You are also going to be choosing one of these paint scrapers. We've used these before. They add texture to our paintings. Now, you will get to choose one today. Do not pick one just because you're like, oh, well, blue's my favorite color. Don't think about the color these are. This makes no difference to your painting as far as the color goes. What you want to look at is the design on the edge, because some of them are very different from one another. So think about which one you would like to use, one that you think would be most interesting, and go with that. So I think I'm going to use this yellow one. So I'm going to just set this aside, and I'm going to work on mixing my colors. And I'm just going to mix one color at a time and then paint with that color. So I am going to go ahead and mix the color that I want to use for my big painting. So I think that I am going to do purple. So I know I need to mix my red and my blue. So I'm going to scoop my blue into my red, because blue is the darker color. You always want to mix the darker color into the lighter color. So I'm going to mix my blue into the red, or pink as it is. And I'm going to mix and stir and mix until it's a solid color. Now, if you think it could use more, you can just kind of scoop that up and mix a little more. So now this is looking a little bit more purple and a little less pink. So I think I'm pretty happy with that. Maybe do just a little bit more so I have a good amount of paint that'll last me. Now, if you run out of paint, you can remix and add more. Just know to get the same exact shade of purple or blue, or excuse me, or orange or green might be a little difficult. So I'm gonna scooch these out of the way, and I'm gonna paint this entire paper edge to edge. So I'm going to do nice long horizontal brush strokes. Brush strokes matter. If you kind of scribble all over with your paintbrush, you're going to see that. So you want to make nice, neat brush strokes. So painting all the way back and forth, side to side. So really use your paint up. Don't tell me I'm out of paint. Make sure you kind of scrape it from the sides, because like I said, to get that same color again will be a little bit tricky. So getting all the way to the edges of your painting, all the way across, and then wiping off your paintbrush on your cloth, setting that on your cloth, and then using the paint scraper, you can add some texture. So I'm just gonna leave it at that. And then obviously my scraper's got paint on it too now. So I'm just going to wipe that off on my cloth a little bit as well. So now this one is done. I'm ready to work on one of these other squares. So I just kind of scooch that over. Now I'm going to mix another secondary color. So these are both the same size, so it really doesn't matter for these next colors which one that you paint, what color. So always mixing the darker into the lighter. I'm going to scoop some of this pink over into my yellow. And I'm getting a nice fluorescent orange. So I'm going to scoop a little bit more pink so I can get a bit of a darker orange. So you can decide how much you want to use, but you just want to make sure that you get an orange color. And now I'm going to paint this square. You want to make sure that your brush is really, really clean, because if I would have gotten any of that blue into the orange, it's going to make it more of a golden, like brown color. So you see how my paper's curling up? It's just because the paper is wet. It's fine. Once it dries, it'll kind of settle down a bit, and then I will flatten them out as well. So don't worry about that. It will kind of curl up a little bit on you. So I'm going to go ahead and use my paint scraper. So I'm just kind of holding it down with a finger. You'll get a little wee bit of paint on you. Again, we shouldn't have paint all over our hands. It should just be like on our fingertips. Very easy to clean. Okay, so wiping off my scraper. I'm just holding up my cloth so you all can see it, but you want to leave this laying on the table. Making sure your brush is super clean before you move on to the next color. And then I'm going to make a green. Do not try to put the yellow into the blue. It's not going to work so well. Always scoop the darker color, put it into the lighter color. So I'm going to scoop a little bit of blue, not a ton, and mix it up into my yellow. Remember, you could always add more. So if it's not dark enough, like this is a pretty light green, I could add a little bit more blue and make it a darker green. Remember, mixing until all the swirls are gone, and then painting nice, neat brush strokes, back and forth, back and forth. So I scraped some of the paint so you can see some of the white peeking through. So now this is all finished, my paint scraper and my brush. I'm going to wipe my brush off on my cloth and just leave it laying on my cloth, set that aside so that the only thing on my placemat are my 3 papers. Even this paint egg carton is set aside. That way I can carefully and slowly carry this to the drying rack. You don't want to speed walk because then the wind is going to catch these papers and is going to blow them onto the floor. So nice and slow. And because we're using the big placemats today, we're going to put these on the drying rack starting as low as we can, working our way up, but we're going to keep our placemats horizontal. We're not going to turn them today since they are the big placemats.